Hello, yes, I am Timo Peach. Welcome to my little slice of Unsee the Future. That's my podcast and becomes sort of the vehicle I use to explore the world. I'm a music artist and a creator with a big interest in how we talk about our futures. Because I think, pretty fundamentally, our primary challenge is a storytelling one. Now, storytelling is a slightly wanky word, but it is the challenge we've got, and I locate it to the word art. And it was very handily, to be bang on brand for myself, my own art as a musician that led me to look at the world differently and end up standing on a stage at an eco festival. I've been invited here as part of Association of Sustainability Practitioners. And I feel honestly much more like a sustainability pilgrim and a limping one. But as I meet people and join with them around the world, make new friends, every time I come to these and hear their stories, how much we are all together trying to knit together new stories of us. And this afternoon, I'll have a quick word with a few people, 5 great guests who are exploring that in different ways. And I want to have them all sat next to each other at the same time. But to begin with, as I think of where I'm from, I want to share the word place. We've just seen place from space. I'm from a place called Bournemouth. It's smack in the middle of the South Coast. And it's where perhaps I feel most rooted because I happen to grow up there. It's a piece of lowland heath, which is now actually quite a rare ecosystem in Europe. And originally there was not much there, and that's why smugglers used to like sneaking up there at night in the 18th century. And then Victorians built nice big villas on it, and it's become a sort of spa town in its own way, looking for its new identity. It's not romantic, it hasn't got a big past to overcome, and it's a little bit asleep with lots of interesting possibilities and an everyday connection to wildlife. But I didn't naturally feel connected to place or nature. I just sort of took it for granted. In coming here, I want to talk about what motivates us, about the place we live in. And that's why, as an outsider, where I am, everywhere I beam down, I come in as somebody from somewhere else and say, tell me about your place. So I wanted to start with a person who has most instigated, from the network of all of you, this experience. So I'm going to play you first for a few minutes, a little interview I've had with Mr. Alan Raw. What motivated him to bring you all together? What was his inspiration for Humber Eco Fest? And what motivates him about being from Hull? This is me and Alan having a little chat. He took me to a place that means something to him. Enjoy this. Right, thank you for bringing me to this landscape. It's the landscape of your place.
Yep, it's where I live. I've done all my life. I'm born here. The beautiful city of Hull.
It is. It's got scale.
Oh yeah.
Newbie to the city. It's got scale. I feel small, and I quite like that.
Yeah, it's the river kind. And it puts things into some like a small place on the side of such a massive river. But actually, it's quite a big city. It's just dwarfed by the water. I was into skateboarding when I was a kid. I know he's back again now, but in the 70s, you know, skateboarding.
As a side note, you should know that he delivered food to us last night very lovingly. My skateboard, obviously.
Obviously. Well, you are staying on the side of my estate, so, you know.
We literally are. That's another story we will come back to.
Hull's very flat, so, you know, active travel is a thing here,
very much.
as it should be. And yeah, I used to skateboard around here. My dad works as a snagging joiner on the dock there, and I used to live just on Hessel Road, just down there.
Yes, and, I now know it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
You're saying that, that's right. And my first job was a clothing house on Hessel Road, which is sort of famous really for making made-to-measure suits for the trawlermen.
Yeah.
When they come back on a weekend and feel like millionaires, get a new suit and have a good time.
The number of things this man does is an entire docu-feature, but that's not this. But I feel like there should be. Because you're so good at getting in and trying things. And it seems like not overthinking when an idea comes, get in and learn by doing, which is the only way to learn, right?
Yeah, I mean, that might seem a little irresponsible, but when you consider all the resources and the venues and everything else we're using are just disused and closed anyway, and just stacked up somewhere not being used, it's a way of reusing, recycling, repurposing, reloving resources which already are embodied carbon and already exist. So adding creativity to that, we can come up with some fairly unique stuff.
Yeah.
Then, unbelievably, people want to come and see it.
They do seem to want to come and see it.
Yeah, which is great profile for the creative people in this area, but also great profile for the sustainable projects in this area, of which there are literally tens of thousands of people pushing back the poly crisis with creativity, independently, unfunded, just off their own backs.
Why? Why here? Why is that spawning such energy for this?
Well, as you can see, we are rather close to the water.
I didn't want to bring it up as an outsider, as a new person to Hull, but that is the story out there of this place. That how do people relate to that story here? That the rising water level is one day going to threaten the very shape of the city.
I think there's a lot of kind of denial to a certain extent. You know, I think people just kind of don't think about it, because if you thought about it all the time, you find that anxiety would stop you doing everything else.
Yeah.
And if you talked about it too much, could well affect the value of your house, your chances of being insured, your chances of ever selling it and getting out, all that stuff. So we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it.
No, but really, this will be, along with parts of London, this will be the first place in the UK to go on the water as the water rises. And yeah, we don't have a barrier across the end of our river either.
No.
But I think a lot of people are worried about the water rising in the river and coming up into the city. But actually, you've got to realise that this river, Humber, it drains a huge percentage of the UK. So the water's actually coming from inland and going out.
Right.
And if it can't get out, it's not great.
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of people already here and other artists who are trying to make sense of how to interpret living with that. But really, it's a microcosm of the climate crisis for anybody thinking about it anyway, isn't it? If you thought about it all the time, we go crazy. So we try not to think about it. Then when we do, how do we engage? You seem to be embodying how to flip that a bit in terms of helping people get experiences of the humanity here. You must draw from your roots living here, doing that.
I suppose so. I guess I can't not do that.
Yeah. yeah. But I mean, does it? Maybe that's a wanky Southerner's question. How do you draw on your roots living in Hull? Do I sound colonial? But I mean, you really care, because as we drove through, all the different types of job that really connect to this place that you've done over the years, tried things on, done this, done that. So many skills you've embodied over the years. That connects you to a lot of different people's experiences here.
It does, yeah.
Must help.
Yeah, Hull's like a big village, really, and I know most of the people in it, I think.
Actually, do now.
Yeah. I probably relate to a few of them, but it's I love this place really, because it is my home. It's the only one I've got. I know the water is rising, but we're also, I think what we are is we're the most vulnerable, but we're also the best hope, and we're actually probably the worst offender as well. You know, 37% of the carbon in the UK is created here.
Okay, badges.
It's not great, is it? But this is the new centre for green energy. So you can just further down there's just a little bit further down the dock is where they're making the blades. It's the Siemens dock.
Yeah,
you see ships going out with massive blades on them to wind turbines.
That feels future-y, right?
Yeah, they're doing these big wind turbine things, which is great.
Yeah.
Because we are the green energy centre.
Yeah.
So you know, one message from this city, the official marketing messages, it's a great place to come and live, work, and invest, because it's the new green energy centre. But it's also, you know, so it is the best home, but that's because it's the worst offender, and it's also the most vulnerable. So I think if we get it right here, we can live here, and we can live with water here, and be creative, enhance sort of, I suppose, grasp all that creativity that's here, harness it to make this city capable of living with water, then it's got a great future. But also the general news media, which I know from being in the BBC, the news was kind of designed to warn people about the scary stuff, so you can duck and cover in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not designed to tell you that there's good stuff happening, really, because there's so much bad stuff happening. You've got to tell that first. And the only campaigns and organisations which get shown up on the news are the ones who are also shouting, raise the alarm, fire, right? Yeah. So all people are hearing through their TVs is be scared. This is really bad. Yeah. Which it is, of course, but what they're not hearing is that there is creative, empowered, motivated people who are taking it upon themselves to push back the polycrisis independently round here. You know, this is the first place in the UK to push through the right to grow. You know, it's
and the interesting what you're saying there about the way the media frames things, that not only is it what's blowing up the most, what should you be most scared of, but also when it is positive, it's got to be big. So great big, wind turbine blades shipping through here, that might get message. But what you're talking about is there's that, but also what does that mean for the individual, the stories of the person living here? That's rooted in Hull, and it's the projects you're involved with elsewhere, and getting people back to the earth. And that doesn't sound very sexy. It doesn't sound very dramatic, but that's the real empowerment, isn't it? Is that what you're tapping into? Is that what facing the poly crisis means to you here?
I think it's about celebrating the small. Yeah. Amplifying the positivity that's involved in people turning their climate anxiety into action off their own back. Yeah. Showing that they are there, letting everybody else know they're there, and also letting people know they're just a little bit late to the party and they are invited. And if they just want to bring their pair of hands as well, there's more veg to grow, there's more things to do.
Because when you celebrate the small all together and create these little experiences to put them together, you realise the small, it's not so small when you put it together.
No, it's huge and global. Yeah. And thanks to ASP and other partners who've got involved, it's getting known about globally as well, talked about.
It sounds like you've got all the ingredients for a terrific story here, with the worst offenders and with the greatest hope. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of something epic, isn't it? We need to smash cut to soaring music now and a drone shot as we walk. I haven't got a drone. I haven't got the budget for that. Don't be silly. This is ASP. We're off to town. Let's go to town. We'll walk a bit. Yeah, right. How do we write and sing and live into the new songs and stories of us? Would you please welcome my very special guest? Give him a warm welcome. It is Dawda Jatta from Bamin. It is Martin King from Rooted in Hull. It is Aimee Watson from Slow Circular Earth Come Up, and Claire Gribben from Friends of the Earth. And I realise that there's so many people now on the stage that there's not enough audience to clap. That's it. And who am I missing? I'm missing someone. Who am I missing? There's four of you. Phoenix! Phoenix rises from the ashes. Phoenix, come and join us as well. From the Climate Emergency Response Network. Emergency centres, please. Big deep, more round of applause for Phoenix, please. Phoenix, I apologise for having you fall out of my... How could you possibly fall out of anyone's mind? Welcome, all of you. Thank you for joining me on this showbiz group on stage. Place and relationship to it. There's one thing, trying to tell the right story. Claire, I'm thinking of you actually straight away, because you've been doing it for so long with Friends of the Earth. Friends of the Earth is a badge everyone knows. You've been fighting the fight. How are you feeling in your connection to this whole area when you get out there? I'll start with you.
So,
Here we are. Yeah, just 1 sec. Just 1 sec. We can edit this out. Ewan.
hello, hello. Doesn't feel like it's on.
1, 2.
Take that one. Oh.
Take that one.
So, I mean, I feel a little bit inadequate in some respects, because although I have been doing it in different ways for a long time, I think in terms of whole Friends of the Earth in particular, probably only the last 4 years. I've got people here like Hillary there, who's been working since 1970s. Sorry, Hillary, 1970s when Friends of the Earth National started. So there's people in the group that have put so many years into it, and I just don't want to take that from them.
Why do we compare? Also, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but when we were chatting the other day, I could see in your eyes straight away that you almost wonder whether you're legitimately Hull enough as well.
Hull enough.
Like, are you legitimate to this place enough?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, because I know myself and Alan, we talk about the fact we've moved to Cottingham, and when people say, "Oh, you've gone to the dark side, you're traitors to Hull," and it feels a little bit like the East Riding and Hull. We're so close, and if I could vote, I would make Cottingham. I'd be one of the unusual people, make Cottingham part of Hull, because I feel that, I don't know, we should be more connected. We are all in the same place essentially, but it does feel a bit like, oh, you're in Cottingham there. But I've lived in Hull for 10 years. I've lived in East Riding, so I feel like I've got that sense of place. But is that almost embarrassment of, I actually live in Cottingham now?
Is that almost embarrassment? Am I in the right place? Ooh, hold that thought. Martin, you've got the word rooted in your very title. What does it mean to be rooted to you? Is it about how long you've been here? It's not that, is it?
Well, yeah, I don't know really. I mean, I was born in Hull in the early 70s, and then I left when I was 20, 21, and then came back about 10 years later, left again after a few years, and then came back about 10 years later, 10 years ago. I think like it was definitely good to go away and get some other perspectives. I've lived in lots of other big cities, and also out in the sticks a little bit of time abroad. But I think, yes, I suppose feeling rooted in Hull is something a bit more also about feeling something in here, some sort of connection in here. I suppose, like, I was chatting to someone yesterday about Hull, and one thing I feel like does kind of root us to the place. There's something nice about, something I like about the place, is that we're never far away from someone who knows someone. So we have like
that's nice.
We have like quite a nice sense. Well, I do anyway. I have a nice sense of like solidarity with people in Hull, I think, and especially a lot of the people that are sat in this room. And as I say, we're never that far away, or maybe just one person away from somebody who knows someone else, And
Go on.
That definitely gives me a sense of connection, if that's what you mean by feeling rooted.
Well, rooted is motivation to do something. Do you watch people at the project look more and more, feel more and more rooted to Hull as they put their hands in the soil? Does that make a difference?
Right. Well, I suppose, again, I mean, I'm into people, and I think, a lot of us in the room, we do practical things, whether it's art, music, food growing. But actually, for me, it's just about getting alongside people, some of the marginalized, disadvantaged people, people that we've grown up with. Some of us, as I say, we've gone off and done other things and grown in other ways. Some people haven't, they've sort of sank into like poor mental health, that kind of stuff. I think something that, the lady maybe was trying to touch on there with this idea, and what I was thinking about as well with this idea of mapping the cities is, well, not everyone's got the opportunity to think, I'm going to go and raise my kids next to that sort of school because I want them to go there. I think, so yeah, so for me, it's about, it's about this kind of stuff. I would hope, I was in a kind of seminar thing some years ago with Alison White, who was the Bishop of Hull at the time, and she was talking to us about the community work that we're all doing. And she said, actually, what it's all really about is just having the capacity to make good things happen for other people. And I've kind of held on to that. And I think I would hope that when people come to Rooted and then when they leave, they feel a little bit better about themselves.
It's about the capacity for holding space for good things to happen, like this event. And also, in discussions with many people over the last, is it only a day and a half? This sense of owning something emotionally, which is where the narrative truth comes in about storytelling. Not only is yours, the land is yours. A lot of us are feeling we want to try and help people reconnect emotionally to the land, to the soil, to nature. Dawda, of course, you're doing that as part of Aimee for Black communities and people of colour. So I feel that they too are invited to life on Earth from an urban environment. How are you finding that, telling that story and pulling people in there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Tim. Sorry, I actually like the name Timo.
I do too. Thank you.
I think it's called Timo.
Thanks, Dawda.
Well, I came to Hull in 2007. Sorry, 2006. I came to Hull, and I remember in 2021, I went to Gambia. I'm from Gambia. I went to Gambia and I put it on my Facebook page, from home to home.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So the following day, I went to see my family, and then one of them actually clicked on that and said to me, "Oh, what do you mean from home to home? Are you now Hull? Are you part of Hull?" I said, "Well, look, I've been in Hull for about 16 years now, so I think I'm part of Hull now." And then I gave them the story of, I told them about William Wilberforce, because we all knew who William Wilberforce is when we were going to school in the 70s, 80s. But what some of us didn't actually know is that William Wilberforce is from Hull.
Yeah.
So when I came here, I found out William Wilberforce is from Hull. And then I kind of think that is a sense of connection. That kind of gave me a sense of connection.
Oh, that's
of me as a person to Hull. Because I've read a lot about him, but I didn't know that he's from Hull, and now I find myself in Hull. So I thought that alone is sort of very, very welcoming as somebody from a Commonwealth country. And then, yeah, I did my studies, and then I later set up that organization. But I mean, for me, the whole idea is just to get people involved,
right,
in any community activity. Now, for example, like the yearly festival that we have in Hull. What I wanted people to kind of, understand maybe is, for example, during the festival, how much, for example, waste is actually created when festivals are going on. We all know that Glastonbury, when there's a festival, after Glastonbury, there is a lot of waste that is being created. So things like that, I kind of want people to kind of understand, to see, that part of life, or that part of activity, or that part of the city. So those are the things that I kind of get myself involved, just to get minority groups, because I know that if you look at the census, if you look at the records, you know that the number of people from migrant communities, I think it is the last census, I think they say it's about nearly 12%.
Yeah.
Of the total population of Hull. So it is increasing. It keeps going on.
Yeah. And then whose land is it anyway? After you've been here, at what point do you qualify to say, well, this is my land? And that's partly internal and external, isn't it? It's other people, but it's you yourself thinking, I feel part of it.
Exactly. I think that's what I'm kind of investigating to kind of get into, to make me feel that actually I am part of Hull. And then I think 99% of people are very, very welcoming, and they want people like me to be part of Hull.
Yeah.
But I think there has to be some sort of commitment from us, and a total, so how eager you want to be part of Hull. Because I mean, to kind of claim a land, for example, to do anything, first of all, you have to show your interest in that particular community.
Yeah. Then
you can imagine yourself easily into the wider community.
You might have jumped straight to the punchline for the whole event when you say from home to home.
Yeah.
You've got to take it with you. There's a clue there about where I might be going with it. From home to home, you have to possess that, take it with you. Aimee, I'm going to come to you, because you too have had work initially responding to a need, right? You just wanted to get stuck in a very Alan kind of way, and like so many of us here, and respond to a need to people who wouldn't normally think about getting connected, don't feel connected to nature or to the poly crisis. How did that start with Slow Circular Earth? And then how did it evolve?
Oh, it's a very long story, really. No, I think it's come from a need within myself, probably to begin with.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's deep. Yeah.
No, that's
we're going down that route. Yeah. So it is about like, I just need to do more. And then I want everybody else to get involved, because we haven't got much time. And come on, why aren't you all doing the same sort of things? And then it's as I'm sort of connecting with myself to sort of grow and develop this sort of eco mindset, whatever. And I'm thinking, I want everybody else to have a piece of this action because it feels so good.
If I jump in there, what a flip that is you've done in your mind from having had a go from, come on, everybody, why aren't you? Because you're feeling frustrated in a way with your own response to, I want everyone else to have a piece of this. That's lovely.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think it's sort of, such a sense of purpose, and like I've wanted something to happen. I've known for like years I need to do something like this, but I didn't know what that looked like. And then so as I sort of grew and realized that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I just want everyone else to have a piece of the action, and just sort of it's those connections then with other people that, with Alan, with Claire and Alan as well. We've got loads of amazing connections just come from just being part of this festival this year. We're from the actual dark side, which is the other side of the bridge. We don't, maybe you don't want to talk about it too much. Yes.
Which as an outsider, I have no concept of. It's kind of, when you're not from a place, it's kind of, what are you talking about? And when you are, you really know.
So I feel out of it. We feel like, there's nothing going on over the other side, and it's just us, me and Matt, just trying our hardest to do something and get other people involved. And then there's this amazing stuff that's happening over the other side of the bridge. If we can just work together and just be the Humber Eco Fest forever, it's going to be make massive changes.
I like that. I'll come back to that. I'm thinking now of you, Phoenix, that it would be very easy to say, oh, Phoenix is an activist. That sounds exhausting. And how are you still alive and still passionate? But how have you managed your own involvement in tilting at, how much do you feel you've been tilting at power or trying to get out and hold a torch up for first awareness? And how has that actually related to managing community and growth and waiting and patience and looking after yourself?
Well, that's a balancing act we're all working on.
It is,
isn't it? Personal, planetary health, project health. I'm a very driven person. I'm a son of, my dad was in the Marines. My mum was a nurse. So I've run environmental community centres for about 30 years. So it's, my mum's side is about looking after people, and my dad's side is get in there and get it done and get on with the job. So it's a mission to try and balance these things and look after yourself, look after community, and we're all trying to look after the planet as well. But one of the things I've seen is we really, really, really need these spaces, community spaces, environment spaces. I want to tell you one little very short 2-line story. I went to visit the Swindon Community Hub, a group we helped set up got them a building in Swindon. It's been running for 2 years, 2-year birthday. Their oldest volunteer there, she's 70 odd, the other day, called Sue. She told us a little one-line story. She said, when I came to Swindon, I knew no one. She said, now I've been a volunteer at Swindon Community Hub, I know everyone. And I just thought that was beautiful. That's the power of community, and that makes you feel better and it helps you sustain when you hear beautiful stories like that. And every community needs space to look after each other, look after yourself, look after the environment. That's kind of what we do with the Climate Emergency Centres Network, is help groups get buildings and they go on their journey. And we all got to look after each other and the planet.
We have, and each other involves, the vast majority of life on Earth, which is more than human, isn't it? And trying to get our heads around that ourselves. And like I say, a limping pilgrim, I will say out loud, just because it illustrates a point, that when I walked in, I spoke with Helen and went, hi, I've just got to say, I've just met you. I'm very conscious that 3 of us walked in from ASP, not only holding disposable cups, but branded with an international chain. And it's because we really wanted the coffee. I've got to keep coming. I couldn't fit it in the bag. But it meant that we all had that honesty conversation quickly about it's all right to be a work in progress. And you catch me in this moment and it doesn't look photogenic. Catch me in this and maybe I'm on point, but neither is the point. It's my awareness and journey and a sense of inclusivity. Actually, I'll come back to you, Phoenix. Where do you feel you've observed breakthroughs in all the work that you've done? You sound very enduring, but what moments have you looked at the situation and thought, we've got a moment of light through for my work there? How do you define that?
3 quick snapshots on the 30-year journey, I suppose. Reclaim the streets, spreading from a street party in Camden that we helped set up to all around the country, to turning into a big international movement anti-globalization movement, met at many big international summits. I think one of the biggest ones was the first day of the Occupy movement. I was next to a BBC journalist and he said, today over 900 cities are occupied and have got direct democracy kind of discussions, things going on. And when he came off, I went, did I hear you right? Did you say 900 cities? And we scarcely could have dreamt of that 15 years before when we closed 3 days, that 900 cities would be meeting, talking, discussing, and what they want to do. And I suppose the last big snapshot, obviously, Extinction Rebellion, that it really put, the climate emergency front and center for the world's media. And a lot of, groups started talking about it after an 11-day occupation of central London and things like that. We have to work long term, both, on activism to stop the destruction, but the long term, every single day, community work and action is absolutely most important. The 15M movement said you need to go back out in Spain. And the Indignado said you have to go back out of the public squares and go into your cities and into your towns and help libraries and community centres and projects and gardening, and organising your community is one of the best solutions and things you can do.
Perfect. And I was going to, go on, applaud that, because that was... Aimee, I was going to say, sitting right next to him there, that on the one hand, a more out there, Occupy activist, public facing, slightly scary, could get arrested if you've done the training. Storytelling sounds a long way from, I was going to ask how your communities feel about that, but exactly as Phoenix says, all that stuff only in a way has roots when it's brought back to community. How do the community you're helping connect with this, or how do you connect between the two worlds of those that you're part of and helping, but sitting next to Phoenix and his work?
I find it really tricky, actually, to balance those for myself, for my family, because I want to be out there scaling the buildings and doing whatever needs to be done. But for my responsibility as a parent, I won't do that. But so I try and sort of take it from a different tack and, get involved with the community. So we're doing things like community fridges and things where we can benefit people by saving rescued food and giving it to people that need it, basically. But it still doesn't feel like it's ever enough. We aren't, I don't think anything ever does. But yeah, so I'm like constantly looking for different ways to talk to people about things, advocate, and be an ambassador, do different things like that. But it's all about the community that I'm working for, shall we say. But yeah, I don't know. I find it really, really hard to balance those two sides of the coin, really.
You know what it means that you're doing it properly and you're thinking about it. And it's exhausting. But I'll come back to that point, actually, about how we look after ourselves. Dawda, I'm thinking of you here. Do you find it helpful? Aimee there's talking about contrasting the different worlds that she's connected to. You have that very consciously, I'm sure, within you, having grown up in one nation on one continent, living now in another on another. Does that contrast in your head help you get perspective when you're working for something?
Yeah, it does. It does. Sometimes I do think about it. But in 2016 or 16 or 17, when we had City of Culture, there was a clip on in one of the promotional clip. And then the clip said, Hall is a place where you come for a week and you end up staying here for like 6 weeks, 10 weeks, a year. Yeah. And then, so I was actually very much drawn to that because originally the plan was come and do my master's, go back home. Yeah. And this was in 2006-07. So, and I'm still here. I've got a family here. So that is still a contrast. And this is just my story. This is what most of people from my background they would have also some very interesting stories, how they come to Hull, how they kind of end up settling in Hull.
Yeah, but it can help you frame get perspective when people are feeling super local. You naturally got a more global perspective because of the different experiences you had. Have you, I have to say actually on that note, I have still not quite got around to leaving Bournemouth. I've been meaning to for a long time. We thought it'd be a temporary going back there after college. And similarly, a long time still there because of the people and the sense of being rooted. But the sense of I should be there rather. I wanted to ask you about a sense of breakthroughs or moments when you thought, oh, Bamin is really working, or what I'm doing here is working. Have you had a moment like that?
One thing that actually kept me going is obviously the interest I personally have in the whole idea of environmental causes, but also the people that I work with. We try to do as much as we can in our own way.
Yeah,
it is a challenge. Now, there's certain instances where I feel very, very proud of what I've done on a particular project. There are certain instances where I feel that we could probably do more. But there's always room for improvement. But on one particular occasion in 2017, we ran a project, aquaponics. I must have to thank Martin for that, for accommodating us on their side. On that project, the idea was to kind of build a system that uses fish and just water, and then you can fish and then at the same time grow vegetables without using soil. So we kind of trained about, I think, 10 to 15 people, mainly from the migrant community. Now, one of the participants there is from Syria. The problem is he has just come to Hull. He cannot speak, English.
Yeah.
Now, what he kind of get interested. Now, what I found out later that he is an electrician back home. Now, he ended up leading us on that project. But what he was doing was, whatever information that we have, we will kind of write it, and then he will translate it into Arabic, and then he'll come back to us and then explain to us.
Yeah.
Now, I personally feel that was a great moment for me.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing somebody get unlocked, and it's helping you unlock how to connect with somebody.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people among us who are very, very intelligent, who have a lot to share, especially within the community here. So those are the things that I actually wanted to go and get those people come out and then share their experience, their knowledge, their skills.
Martin, how do you look after yourself in this? I'm thinking of the kind of the ups and the downs. We've spoken about art and its place in our lives. How much is it for you helping connect with people, and how much is it sort of trying to declare things or look after yourself? Where's the creativity for you in the mix of bringing people to the soil?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sat up here today thinking, God, I am fucking knackered. And I think all of us, we live in this this paradox, don't we, where we just feel so driven to give and to want to help and to want to do what we can in our communities. And there's something nurturing for me about that. I get something out of that as well, because I feel like I'm doing what, without wanting to sound too fluffy, what I should be doing on this planet, the reason for being here, that kind of stuff. Definitely. But also it's tiring. Of course it is, because it takes it out of us, doesn't it? And sometimes, we get these little wins like Phoenix mentioned, and I think I know you from London. I lived in London 20 odd years ago. Yeah. Funnily enough, you're never one step away from anyone, even the Londoners.
Never one step away.
But one of the things, and I was going to mention this, I had a bit of an epiphany moment living in London, because I used to do a lot of the kind of frontline activism, the anti-capitalist stuff. And then I was involved in a few of us were getting a bit fed up with it, and we squatted a building in Stoke Newington, and we turned it into a little community centre called the Radical Dairy. And yeah, exactly, yeah. And it was at that moment I thought, actually, this is what I should be doing, because it was people were coming in, and I realised that actually this is what I'm good at, being around people, and just, we used to do, like you do in these places, community meals and music jams and benefit gigs and this kind of stuff. So, and what I wanted to say about that is that there's something exciting, I think, about Hull at the moment. Since we have the City of Culture here, I think the council have kind of tweaked on to, the benefits of having artists around, and they've started letting people use empty shops in the city centre this kind of stuff. And I think there's something good about that because it gives us, it gives people, it helps to connect us all into the community. People can see these things that are going on as they're walking past. They might not all come into these places, but it's certainly, I think that's something that's been encouraging to me, and I'm hoping that's going to be quite nurturing for all of us as well. So how do I look after myself? Well, I get up early in the morning. I wake up very early. I always have done, and I try and just sort of get on my day well and drink some water and have some juices and stuff like that. And I go swimming before I go to work. I have a sauna most days. I try and go and get out in the sticks a little bit on my camper van and that kind of stuff and get in the sea. And I play, music. I play in I front and play guitar in a band, a dub reggae band, and I'm very much into that style of music. So that's quite nurturing for me as well, So
that sounds like a brilliant lifestyle. How do you fit that in?
Well, exactly. How do you think? I don't know. I just do. I feel in some ways like a lot of us, I feel lucky in some ways that, I get paid to do this stuff that I am also really into doing, and I have had my fair share of absolutely shit jobs. As I say, I've been all over the place. I've done lots of things, but there is something like this paradox, this two-way thing of like, on the one hand, sometimes these things are really tiring and they're draining and I have to really hold on to my head a little bit. And sometimes I pay someone to sit in front of and, offload it all. But also, the other side of that coin is that I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing. And there's something really beautiful about that as well,
That right there is rootedness, isn't it? No matter what's coming at you, if you think, but I'm supposed to be here. Now, if you're talking Old Testament prophets, I think a lot of them went, yeah, I'm supposed to be saying this and I'm going to get killed for it, but I'm supposed to be doing. So there is a place where that doesn't come from. But I think it does. I think the idea as an artist of being in flow state, that's when you forget whether something's good, who you're accountable to, how to save the world. That's partly why one of the things I'm discovering about creativity's role in this. And so feeling like you're doing the right thing. Claire, does that speak to you? Is that something you draw on, having been so consistently with Alan and the others?
It's an interesting one because I think I reflected quite a lot over the Humber Eco Fest, probably more than I ever have, even though it's probably a consistent theme, is that how can you connect to people who may be put off by protests or being very extreme activists and move beyond that kind of preaching to the converted. And I think a couple of things that stood out for me was around the art and around the music that we brought into the Eco Fest. And I think that drew maybe more people into the idea of the environmental movement or campaigning. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses. So how do you bring people into, I'm going to call it a movement because I can't think of another word, but into the movement without feeling like you've got to be a campaigner, you've got to go on protests and things like that. And the other side of it for me is, and maybe that links to the mental health side, is that pleasure or the joy in small things. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of us got that back during the COVID time, although it was a bad period of time for a lot of people. We had walks in our local area. We got to know the green spaces around our little patch. We found out about the wildlife we may not have ever known about, the fox that lived in the nearby the so much. So it's kind of both those things. How do you make it more real rather than making it feel like this awful, daunting exercise?
Yeah, no, you're dead right. As ASP, we noticed over the last 3 weeks, all the online events, the one that drew the most had the word future in it and was talking about active creativity to make the future. I think that's an enormous theme that we will see and should see more politicians coming out and talking about the future again. Yeah. But that's an active creative role. And I'll reflect you, Helena, this morning thinking, well, I don't know whether anyone's going to come to my talk. And then I hear it was a bun fight upstairs of not enough room because people wanted to come and be creatively embodied. I have a whole thing, I have a whole book about exploring how arts practices, embodiment being a big one of them, helps you get into feeling like you're responding. I'm conscious that, sadly got to wrap up the conversation. I want to come around each of you as a wrap up and ask you, and I'll start with you, Phoenix, and just move along. But or anybody who wants to jump in, actually. But the new stories of us, the new songs of us, the whole new frame of our future. What do you need from it? What do you want from a new story of us as you look forward from where you are, Phoenix?
I think one of the biggest ones really is we really need to tell the story of hope and solutions. I've been a community and environmental activist. I've been a solutions networker for 30 years. And there is so much climate doom, creating a lot of climate anxiety at the moment. And it feels so big. But I've been researching solutions for a long time. There are thousands of solutions, thousands of projects. And my daughter gave a mum a book. It's called Hope in the Darkness, and it said if the French resistance during World War II had given up hope, where would we be now? And this is some of the darkest hours, you could say, for climate destruction coming in. But we've got to have hope. We've got to keep networking, keep setting up solutions. So tell new stories of hope and new stories of solutions and sustainable futures. Imagine what it's going to be like in 50 years, 100 years when it's better and more sustainable.
Let's clap that in. I want to clap everyone that will bring. Thank you. Aimee, what story do you need? What story do you want to tell?
I think it's quite similar. I think that is the right route to go. Now, whatever it means, it's action. It's people actually getting involved. So, like, there's been many a time where I've just sort of knocking at the door. Come on, do this. Can you get involved? Let's all rally round. And then nobody's listening. So people don't respond to that. So we have to do it in a nice, nurturing, holistic kind of way where people get it. But it's easier. So I've turned up at my sister's many, many times since I started to sort of knock on the door and say, come on, get involved. And I stopped doing it. And I just, every time I go around now, I go around quite regularly. And she's like, oh, I've got the milk bottles being delivered now, Aimee. And then the next step, the next time I go around, I've got this, whatever it is. She's done another step each forward. And I think it's as we lead, shall we say, and people follow and they want to get involved. They just don't necessarily know how to make that step. It is, but like I say to everybody that I sort of work with, once you make that step, there's no going back once you're on this journey. It's like, oh, right, we've got to just keep going then now. So action in creative ways of like arts, singing, dancing, whatever it takes. Get them in.
Get them in. Let's hold that in. Claire, what story do you need of the future?
I'm going to keep it, I agree with what you both said, but I'm going to keep it small, short and sweet, recapture the joy of small things. That's what I think.
Yes. Dawda, what story do you need of the future? What song do you want to sing of the future?
There is a lot of climate anxiety going on at the moment. I think we need to tell a lot of stories around focusing on the people on the planet rather than focusing too much on trying to heal the planet. Let's heal the people on the planet. If we can do that, that will improve mental health of people and it will heal the world.
Yes. Martin,
Blimey.
are you actually going to sing?
I'm not going to sing. I don't sing anyway. It's very deadpan. I just deliver words. That's what I call it.
Okay.
So
Right. If you want to play it down, I mean, you know.
I think for me, there's something about sitting with the complexities and contradictions that we all live in at the moment. And I really hope that we can all learn to love each other a little bit better.
Amen. Thank you, man. I love the way Gwyn put it this morning. I'm honoured to get to talk to Gwyn a lot as part of ASP. And you can take your elders for granted. We don't actually, but watching him stand up here as well was another experience. And your words this morning simply, everyone's born with the same capacity to love and to receive love. It is actually that simple to come back to. I definitely want us to start writing the new stories of us and picturing. I think people can't own what they can't see. And that's why I feel that art is not just something we should do a bit more of, I think it's the missing global goal. It's the 18th global goal, and it's in the fucking middle because it empowers absolutely everything else. Because if you want to use the model of the global goals, every one of those, I think, is just a different symptom of the same problem, and it's our economic culture. That's a story we've been raised to be in, and it's affected everybody, whether you're like me, a white person who didn't notice colonialism until I got older and went, oh, my whole identity's been ripped away from the land and been ripped away from indigenous wisdom. I didn't even realize, or whether it's being imposed upon you on another country. We all together, this is our times, right? And so we together have to bring our experiences and write and sing the new songs and stories of us. That's what I reckon. And I want to say a quick shout out to Lauren and to Jake and to Monica, who joined me on Unsee the Future last Sunday. Lovely conversation about 3 artists living with the grief and the activism in amongst living nature. It was a super conversation, guys. And Jake, I'll say that I've been quoting you since. There was one thing at which I'll leave us all with, if I may. It relates indirectly to the space thing. I love that we came on right after Silvio, because I think we've got to pull focus as a matter of living day to day, that our meaning happens when we know we're rooted right up to this bit of land and that person I know who I'm just walking through with, but I can also see the overview effect. And I can maybe use tech, but I know my place in the universe a bit better, and that can help you feel rooted. Jake said, we have to be angry and not angry simultaneously. And somehow we've got to all inhabit different spaces to feel rooted wherever we are. Home from home, it's already in us. Let's encourage the sense of home in each other wherever we find ourselves, because home always seems to come at the end of a long journey, no matter who we are. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. My guests, thank you very much for giving your time to join me this afternoon. Thank you. And I haven't got a punchline out jingle, which is very unlike me. So we'll just meekly leave the stage. Thank you very much. Yes.